Folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're going to be taking a look at this little fellow right here, Stranger Things Upside Down. This is from designer Rob Daviau and CMON Global. It follows the events from seasons 1 and 2 of Stranger Things on Netflix. So, let's get down to the table and take a look, shall we? So Stranger Things Upside Down is a cooperative game where all the players will either win or lose together. In order to win in Season 1, what you have to do is get all of the tokens from the stacks that say Rescue Will. So these 3 stacks have to be emptied in order to win the game with Season 1. In Season 2, you have to, in order, you have to rescue Will, and you also then have to close the gate. That is on the other side of this board, and these are the cards and extra things that you use with the game when doing Season 2. But generally speaking, what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to have 4 things you're going to do in order. The first thing you're going to be able to do is move your character from wherever they are to another place on the board, and that is going to be using their movement value that's stated on their player sheet. So Jim Hopper here can move from one area to another because he has a movement of 1. Now, in addition to that, you do have these action cards. All players start with 5 of them, and they're going to have numbers on them. They're also going to possibly have walkie-talkie symbols, and they're also going to have possibly danger symbols on them as well. And so you can add the number value of these cards to whatever action you want. So, for example, since we're talking about moving, Hopper can move 1 base. But if he plays a 2 card, he could move 1, 2, 3 if he wanted to. Or he could play a 1 and just move 2 spots. But he has a base of 1 movement. The characters have different movement values, but you can always play an action card to boost the movement that you get. The second thing that you'll do is perform an action. You'll notice that some of these places have different actions, so you can investigate the lab at the laboratory, or if you're at the laboratory, you can get an item, or you can get an item plus 2, or up here at the police station, you can gather info, or get an item, or over here at the scrapyard, you can calm down or get an item. You can recruit an ally or get an item up here at the buyer's house, or down here at the school. You can help 11 at the Wheeler's house, or if you're in the upside down, you can, if you are at the laboratory in the upside down, you can help 11 or get an item down here. So depending on the place where you're at, that determines what action you're going to do. Some of the actions are going to be uncontested actions. For example, getting an item is not contested. You'd basically play a card out of your hand. So if I'm at the main street here, I could play a 1 and get an item plus 2. So that means I get to look at 1, 2, 3 of the item cards from the top of the deck, choose 1, and then put the others at the bottom of the item deck. So that's what get an item means. Recruiting an ally just means that you're going to recruit the ally that is next to the buyer's house, or if you're at the school, you get to recruit this ally here. Whenever you do successfully recruit an ally, you simply take another ally from the deck and refill with a number of tokens, whatever this number is up here. But if you defeat that stack, you'll be able to keep him, and that gives you a special ability. For example, Jonathan counts as having a character in your location if you have him with you. Investigating the lab here at the laboratory is an important thing to do because it is going to allow you to take these stacks off of the board, and once you take a stack off the board, you're able to ignore 1 danger symbol on action cards that you play. Now, this is an important thing that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail, but these danger symbols at the bottom of the card will make you draw more scene cards later on, but the more times that you investigate the lab, the more of those symbols that you'll be able to ignore on your turn. Now, gathering info here allows you to reveal a number of tokens off the top of stacks equal to how many actions or action points you give that action when you are here. So you can gather info and actually flip some of these tokens over to kind of give you an idea of how much power these different stacks have. When you help 11, either here at the Wheeler house or down here at the upside down laboratory, then you're going to be able to use these special abilities that L has, but all of the abilities here and here are all one-time uses per game. So once you have completed or you've helped 11 with this stack, you can no longer use that special ability. But then after you have performed an action, wherever it might be, you are then going to refill your hand. So you're always going to have 5 action cards at the beginning of your hand, at the beginning of your turn, and you're going to use them out. During the refill hand, the third phase of your turn, if you've used 3, you're going to draw 3 action cards so that you have 5 going into the next round. Then the last thing you're going to do on your turn is reveal scenes. And scenes, basically, you can kind of think of them as event cards, if you want to say it that way. But this is also where those danger symbols come into play here as well. So let's say that these were the 3 cards that Mike played on his turn. He has 1 danger symbol showing, and we haven't revealed any of these, so we haven't investigated the lab, so that does count. What that does is it adds to the number of scene cards we have to turn over. When we're in Act 1, we have to turn over 1 card base, but you add to that any number of danger symbols that you can't ignore. So in this particular case, we would be drawing not just 1, but we would be drawing 2 scene cards, and they would be done in order. So we would first of all move the Demogorgon to your location, and any character in your location gains 1 fear. So let's say that we were Joyce Byers, and so we would have to move the Demogorgon up here, and then Joyce would actually have to take a fear. If you're in the upside down, you gain fear equal to the number of Demogorgon stacks instead. So if Joyce were down in the, let's say that she was down in Castle Byers and he moved over here, instead of just getting 1 fear, she would have to get 4 fear because there are 4 Demogorgon stacks over there. So after we resolve that one, we would then have to resolve Blood in the Water, move the Demogorgon to your location, then each character in your location gains 1 fear. So in this particular case, he's already there from the other card, so she would just lose another fear like that. And then these would be put into the discard pile, and it would be the next person's turn. The way that you move from Act 1 to Act 2 and then finally to Act 3 is when you have to reshuffle the discard pile and make another action card draw pile. The first time you do that, you move to Act 2, which now means that whenever you have to reveal scene cards at the end of your turn, you have to draw a base of 2 plus however many danger symbols you revealed. And then in Act 3, you'll have to draw 3 plus however many danger symbols you can't ignore. One other action that we didn't talk about is fighting. So whenever you find yourself in an area that has a foe in it, being the Demogorgon or the patrols, you can basically, if you're fighting the Demogorgon, you're going to be choosing one of the Demogorgon stacks that are over here. There will be other stacks added to it throughout the course of the game. Different scene cards will do that. But you start with 4, and they each have 4 stacks in them. Some of these scene cards will add stacks of 2, so it's possible that you could choose one of those when you're fighting the Demogorgon. But it is basically done this way, and it is done the same way as it is with any other action. So, for example, let's say that I am here in the Investigate the Lab, and I'm going to investigate this one. Well, I'm going to play a number of cards from my hand with numbers on them that will hopefully equal or exceed the number of the sum from this stack of tokens. So let's say that there's a 1 here. The tokens are from 0 to 5, so this is a possible 6. So let's just say that we use 1, 3, and 2. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6. So I take these and I flip them over. Well, it's only a 2. I definitely exceeded, so I would take these away. and they would go into the pool here, and that was what I did for my turn. Now we can ignore one of the danger symbols. So if Joyce is up here fighting the Demogorgon, she's going to choose one of these stacks. This probably isn't a good idea because she has no idea what's in that stack, but there's a possibility of this being 4 5s. I mean, it could be that, so it could be as much as 20. It could be as much as 0 if those are 4 zeros down there. But she's going to do the best that she can. Let's just say that her and Hopper are also in there, so you can see how walkie-talkies work. But she's going to go all in because she has no idea. So she's going to play 3, 4, 5, 6. Since there is at least one other person here, the walkie-talkie counts as an additional one. So that's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that is 12, and she's able to ignore one, so she went ahead and played this one as well. So she has an amount of 12 here, and she absolutely did not do it because she has 5, 9, 12, 14. So she failed by 2. So that means that Joyce is going to go up 2 in fear, because you always go up the difference between the two if you fail. And then you're going to take one of these tiles here and remove it from the stack, and then that stack gets stacked back up and put back over here on the Demogorgon pile. All of these cards will go away, and she will have to draw 5 new cards on her turn. So that's how fighting the Demogorgon works. Fighting the patrols is the same thing, except you use this stack right here, and it's always one stack. If it is ever defeated and removed, you simply take 4 tiles from the pool here and turn over 1, and that's ready to go for another patrol. Elle is not a playable character in the game, so that is something to note. She is just a marker that is going to move and denote which act you're in. That's generally speaking how you play the game, no matter if it is Season 1 or Season 2. So let's get to my final thoughts. All right, now my first pro for the game is going to be that the theme and the IP work well with this set of mechanisms. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I think the mechanisms and the theme are married well. Sometimes you play a game and the mechanisms just like make a whole lot of sense. That's not really what I'm saying here. I'm just saying that the mechanisms don't overshadow the theme and the IP. They allow the theme and the IP to shine, and that's kind of more what I'm talking about here. If you are a Stranger Things fan, I think you're going to enjoy this game. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the things that you remember from the show are baked into the game in a number of different ways that work well together. Now, nobody can play Elle. This is one of the things that I like about it, because Elle would probably be the OP character in the game if she were in it. Instead of having 11 be that overpowered character that everybody just kind of hides behind, kind of like how they did in the show at certain points, she has basically 6 abilities that you can use throughout the course of the game, but they're only one-shots. You only get to use them once, so that provides a good balance for the game. And this is one of the reasons why I'm saying this under this pro of the theme being used so well here. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. Now, my second pro is going to be that I really enjoyed the variable player powers that this game has. With cooperative games, more often than not, you're going to find each of the different characters can do something special. I liked the fact that it wasn't just a special power. They had different movement abilities. The use of items in the game is also a cool thing. Variable player powers is one of those mechanisms that I really try to look for in games, because I like having games that I'm different from everybody else. But on top of that, you also have the items that you've been able to use that further make you a little bit different than everybody else. Also, as we're talking about variable player powers, I think the allies in the game also add to that a little bit, because if you have an ally that's following you around, you're just a little bit more different than everybody else. I think that's a cool thing. I also think it's cool that the allies weren't in the item deck. You have to go out and try to get the allies specifically, and I think that's a cool delineation mechanically speaking, because often you find allies in the item deck, and that what probably would have been kind of the phone-in way to do it, but they chose not to, and I like that. My third pro is going to be one that was kind of foreshadowed as I was talking about the theme, and that is the mechanisms employed. The mechanisms are super simple in this game. You are doing a little bit of math as you're having to determine whether you've won or lost the encounter or the action that you're trying to do, whether it's helping 11 or rescuing Will or investigating the lab or whatever it might be. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because it's fairly simple math. Let's not overstate it anywhere here, but just realize that the mechanisms employed are not difficult. Now, you are going to have to use some logic, a little bit of deduction and all of that kind of thing, because you do have some information, and it is possible for you to get more information over the course of the game as to what numbers are in all of these different stacks that you're going after. But that simple mechanism of you basically just go through 4 things on your turn. You move, you do an action wherever you're at, you refill your hand, and then you flip over some scene cards, some event cards, and you just kind of rinse and repeat. I like the simplicity of that, but somehow they're able to pull that theme in through those mechanisms, and I just think it's really a cool thing. So using simple mechanisms in this was a great choice. My fourth pro of the game is going to be the scene deck, and I like event decks generally speaking, but when I saw at first glance there's only 1 Demogorgon on the board and there's only 2 patrols, and I'm like, this seems like it's going to be easy. Because it seems like there's plenty of locations on the board. We're going to be able to stay away from them. No worries. Nope. Nope. As a matter of fact, there is a psionic blast where you can, it's one of the ways that you can help Elle, and you can remove 1 patrol from the game. I cannot express to you how much I encourage people to do that as fast as possible, because these patrols and the Demogorgon will keep you absolutely hogtied if you're not careful. And it's all thanks to this scene deck. The scene deck's going to be moving the patrols around, it's going to be moving the Demogorgon around, it's going to be doing a lot of different things that normally wouldn't be that big of a deal, but when taken together and all of their effects are kind of summed up, it's really difficult. And that's going to be my 5th pro of the game. This game is really challenging, but it never feels like it's hopeless. And that's a really important balance to strike in a game like this, because you can have a really difficult game where it feels like there's no way we're going to win the entire time. And I know that will profit a really memorable experience when you do finally get to beat the game, but it can also foster a real feeling of, I just don't want to play that game because I know we're going to lose, and I'd like to win every once in a while. So I really enjoy the balance that was struck with these nasty scene cards. I think it was a great choice mechanically speaking, because what you're able to do on your turn is in part determined by how good your action cards are. If you have a bad hand of action cards, it does seem like you're going to be doing something that might not help out the group that much. I did hear that being said a couple of times, that I just don't feel like I'm helping very much. Well, the opposite of that is, or rather the other side of that coin, is that a lot of the things that you can do in the game, even when you have a not as good of a hand of action cards, still help in the long run generally speaking, because of the nature of drawing action cards and that kind of thing, and going through a deck and all of that. It can sometimes feel like you're just not able to do much because of the cards that you have in your hand. And I can understand that. I would encourage people that do feel that way to kind of keep more of an open mind about the cooperative nature of the game. And that is, if I can't do something really big, can I do something that's going to maybe set things up so that the next person or two people after me will be able to do something big? So be aware that that could possibly happen, but try to fight that experience, try to fight that tendency to get ho-hum about it by simply saying, hey, this is a cooperative experience. So if I can't do the cool thing, let's try to make sure the next person can. That's my one con, though. Now, as far as the rating is concerned, I'm going to give this a pretty high rating because I think it hit all of the cylinders that I wanted it to hit and that I thought it wasn't going to hit. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 because I really did enjoy this experience. I am a fan of the series, so that does probably make up for some of the shortcomings that it might have based on some of your opinions. But I really enjoyed this game, and I was very pleasantly surprised at how challenging it was. And how hopeful you could remain while it was being challenging. It does punch you in the gut, but you never feel like you're done until you're done. This definitely falls into the category that I would put Prospero Hall Funko games. Games like Back to the Future, Back in Time, Jaws, The Goonies, Never Say Die, Rear Window. All of those were from the same camp, and this kind of has that same feel to it. So it's definitely a game that I enjoyed. Definitely 8 out of 10 for me. Thanks for joining me here on the Dice Tower. I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.